from so many tech experts. We're going to crush the interview. And we're going to crush the interview. So our next two people, if I could please invite to the stage, I'd love it for Chai to come back. And then Ankita. Ankita, oh my goodness, with over 20 years of recruiting experience. Here we have the head of recruiting for JP Morgan Chase from the West Coast. You two are going to, Chai, you're going to interview this leader, and she's going to give us the nuggets and the pearls of wisdom about how our attendees can crush their next interview. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nancy. This was fantastic. Okay, so all of you learned how to navigate, how to explore, how to position for the cloud leadership role. Now is the fun part, is how to nail that interview. How many of you are excited? Put me like, I am excited in the chat. I want to see that you're excited. Come on, let's do this. Let's get some energy out there. Just say I'm excited in the chat. There you go, Pooja, Nancy, perfect. So Ankita, you're already getting the love. So Ankita is like the head of recruiting at JP Morgan Chase. I got to know her when we were doing the lunch and learn session. And what I learned was she actually is an expert is how to teach us how to nail that interview for executive leadership roles. And she has 20 years of experience building technology teams from ground up. So Ankita, welcome. I'm going to have a fantastic time learning, and probably I'm not looking for a job, but I'm always hiring people. So I'm going to learn some tips too. So the topic that we're talking about is crushing the interview. But before we go there, tell me more about you. Tell me about who you are. Why should we be hearing all these cool ideas from you?
Thank you, Chai. So first of all, I want to thank Chai and the Women in Cloud team to giving me an opportunity to, speak at this forum. I think I'm like, thankful. And little bit about myself, like my journey starts way past in India. I grew up in India and in a community where, usually once you are done with your undergrad, family decides for you, they find a groom, you get married by you're like 21, 22. But I wanted to do a professional degree and I was the first one to get MBA. Thank you for my mom. Like she really supported me. And I was like a rebel in the family, always want to do something different than, the norms. So in year 2000, I came here, I came to US and, slipped into recruiting job because as you say, like nobody prepares for recruiting or have a professional degree. So I slipped into recruiting and loved it. And I thought that would be the role where I can, like, my strength shows up and I can do well. But it's never easy, with start of my career, it was like a start of my family. I had 2 children and whatever I was earning was never like enough to pay for the child care and my bills. So, but I'm a dreamer. I always wanted to do more, prove to myself, again, I was a rebel that I want to make a difference. So kept on it, doing things. But all these hardships, so for example, the company I used to work for, they were like 8 to 5, like there was no flexibility. And here are my kids, they want to go for soccer, they want to learn soccer, I need the classes. So I started creating this community or group of people who can like help each other. I networked with people, and all those skill sets, I think, strengthened my career eventually on like, how I grew and how I never hesitated to ask for help or learn and, ask for like, like looking up for people who have been successful and then, ask for their mentorship and help. So that's about me. I guess it was long, but I wanted to like really bring this up that, all your failures and all your hardships, you learn a lot and it makes you strength, very strong. And like, that's how you grow.
Sure, Ankita. So first is, I would say is go mom is the hashtag for all of us. I think there was some woman in our life, that's our moms or grandmothers or friends or aunts and aunties, who made that possible for us to be here. For me personally, it's my mom who said, you have to study. I know you have to get married and have kids and take care of the family, but she said, you have to study, get that basic education right. So just in case something happens, the education will come handy. I'm so glad she pushed to make that happen. Ankita, you're at JP Morgan Chase. There are 4,000 jobs that you're looking for. Most of them are in tech. And you're always in front of, these candidates. Crushing the interview is very important, because most of that community keeps saying is, how do I crush the interview? Now that I have the skills, I know what I want to do, I know that job profile. What does that look like? What does crushing the interview truly look like? Tell me tell me a little bit more about it.
So when you talk about crushing the interview, if somebody's in an interview, they would know if they've done well or not. And here are a
Yes.
few things, like, uh, if the interview is very conversational, like it's going both ways, like you're having like good ideas flowing with both parties, interviewer and interviewee. If interviewer is engaged a lot in the questions, if the interview goes over time. Some of the other things is like, if you are well sold on that role and the company, and your all the questions were answered, if the interviewer introduced you to some of the teammates or their seniors, and it clearly mentions you about what are the next steps, that is like, okay, your interview was well, and I would say you wait to hear the news, the next steps.
I think that is so true. Like as an employer, like when we are hiring, I would say the language shifts, instead of asking too many questions, you're actually co-creating what the direction of the job looks like, or you're going more details, you're showing some screenshots, and you're saying, I think we will get back to you quickly. Just give us a day or two and we'll get back. It's a very different language, the language shifts. And also the eyes light up, from,
Yeah.
because that's the right person. And I know one person just got hired on the team, and it was so fast. We went literally from the time we met till the time we gave an offer, it was 1 week. So for all of you here listening, I have one question. What is the type of questions you want to have answers to? What are those burning questions in your mind? Just put it in the chat so I can facilitate it. But as we go with Ankita, there are 3 areas that I want to focus on: is preparing for an interview, reacting in an interview, and how do you do a follow-up strategy. So I will take that structured process. If there's any specific questions you want me to ask Ankita, so please put in there. So Ankita, let's talk about preparing for an interview. So when an individual has to prepare, let's say they are applying for a director of cloud product management, how should they go about introducing, and how do they go about preparing for that interview? Just give me a little bit more details on how should the preparation go.
So Chai, I think this is a very, very important topic which you have touched, is what to do to prepare for the interview, rather than like, the second step is at the interview, but there's a lot of research, a lot of practice, a lot of brain memory goes in before you actually go for an interview. So for example, I would say, in my perspective, is like, know your resume in and out. You should be ready to speak about anything from the resume, like skills, achievement, experience. And it sounds funny, but then I would say that write down everything, like write down your interests, skills, goals, work style, accomplishments, strengths, and speak out loud, like speak out in front of a mirror, or speak out in front of, like somebody you trust, like your friend, and ask for feedback. That is very, very powerful, and it gives you a lot of confidence. Another very, very important point is, before going to an interview, know the business, know that organization, that you'll be interviewing for, know about their mission, know about like any specialization they do, any major accomplishments they have done, even any concerns, any current concerns, any whatever, like in the current news you have heard about them. Another thing is, know the job very well. I would say recruiter or whoever the first person you spoke about the role is, they would know a lot about the role, about the team, about the skills they are looking for. And they could be also the key person for you to know about like how to prepare for interviews. So do not hesitate to ask as much, like ask again, ask as much information you can ask. And another important thing, once you have that detailed description, make sure that you do a fit. So these are the skills that they're looking for, and these are the skills you have. How do they fit? How does the experience fit? How does your passion fit? And have examples, for every skill that would be a fit for that company. How you did in the past and how you got the success. And there's I know my answers are long, but in interview I try to keep your answers very concise and to the point. And you can use that STAR technique or SES technique, like situation, this was the situation, this is the action I did, and that is the result or success it led to, which gives a very clear very clear information about you and how you process and what's your thought process, how you did things, and how you achieved success. And
Well
last
said.
point,
Go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
want to bring is, like, be confident, take deep breathing, breathe, like, take deep breaths, and have some power poses, like before you go, like, Wonder Woman, and or like a tall tree. It really helps. It boosts your, confidence. It gives a signal to the brain that you're confident and you can do it.
Absolutely, Ankita. And there's one question I think the community wants to hear is, yes, we are preparing, but when you look at all these, leadership jobs, the executive job, what's kind of the nuances difference between executive interview process versus a non-executive interview process? Is the preparation the same, or is it a little bit different?
In my perspective, preparation is same. It's just, I think you will get more questions, behavioral questions, because when you go to an executive role, it's more about mission, vision, how you work with people, how you influence people, how you encourage people. So those behavioral questions are very, very important. And like in any interview, the interviewers basically wants to know, can you do the job, do you have the skills? And in executive level, it's more about like how you motivate people, encourage people, how you work together towards that same mission of the company, right? And when these behavioral questions are there, um, it's not about the right answer, or it's not about like the full solution they're looking for. It's more about your thought process. How do you think? Are you thinking in that, like, same uh, you know uh, critical thinking? Like, are you being a self-starter? Are you willing to learn? Do you have that critical thinking? So it's more about that rather than them asking like the right answer or right solution to that problem.
That's fantastic. So I would say is the leadership role, let me summarize and say yes or no. If it's a leadership role, lot more around people and people management. Anything that is not like a executive roles is really focused on process and process excellence is what they are looking for. Can you get things done? How fast you can get it done? But when you think about executive roles, it's all about people, behaviors, and leadership skills, mindset, how you think and how you pull the team together. Is that a correct way of thinking about it?
That's correct. I think you put it like better than me.
No, that's good. I'm just summarizing it.
Yeah,
Second is reacting in the interview. I know we only have another 2 more minutes, but
yeah.
let's see if I can get another 3 minutes I can borrow from the team. Is reacting in the interview when there are all these behavior questions or task questions. How does anyone need to react in an interview? Because you talked about deep breathing and slowing down when you're speaking. What are the things they should be aware of when you're thinking about reacting in an interview?
So, couple of things in interview is, um, one thing is like give your full attention, shut down your phone or keep your phone in the purse, make a eye contact, keep your shoulders straight, relax. You have to think that eh, other than time, you're not losing anything in the interview, right? And have it conversational. If you don't understand a question, you know ask them that, is this what my understanding is, this is what my understanding of the question is. If you're answering something and you're not sure, say, is this what you're expecting, or should, or like ask them otherwise, ask them to repeat the question. um, um, let's see some other things. Again, one of the answer would be like be concise, structure your answers. And if you prepare them in advance, like a lot of, the brain memory, it will be easier for you to speak those answers, and it will come easy to you. And
Very
always
well.
close very strong, you know.
Yes,
Uh,
yes, so true. I would say is being precise, very clear, breathe and be confident. Don't be afraid. The way I always look for people is what can you contribute to the mission and the vision of the company rather than why are you like, not just for a pay increase or not just for, I just want to shift from one company to what value do you bring to the company and the market and the ecosystem before even I look at the fit is if they can bring the value and then we look at the fit. So that's kind of how Ankita, I'm looking at recruiting people on the team. Coming to is follow-up strategy. Let's say you had a great interview, you reacted well, you answered all the question. How does a follow-up works? What is the best follow-up strategy? Is there any etiquette? Is there any communication? Can we connect to them in the LinkedIn? Can you give us some guidance on that?
yes. So, you know, though it's considered traditional, but as a recruiter, whenever I get a thank you note, it goes a long way. I always forward them to the hiring managers. You can always address any issues, about your interview or any, qualification you had. You can reiterate your skills in that. Sometimes you think like, oh, I could have given a better answer for that question, or solution. You can always include those, but keep it short, and make sure you proofread it before you send it. Always review any emails or anything before you send it. Um, and in terms of connecting on LinkedIn, well, when you're preparing for interview, I would highly recommend you to go to LinkedIn and see your interviewer's background. It always helps you, and in a way maybe you might connect on some other things, like maybe both are Warriors fan, some like sports fan or something. So it's always good to know the other person. But while here's in my perspective, I would say is that it's okay to connect. Once your interview is done, you can send a thank you note on LinkedIn also and say, it was great talking to you, and I would like to keep in touch with you, and send a connection note. I think networking is powerful, so
No,
it's great
that's
as you do.
fantastic. I know the thank you email goes a long way. Please make sure you do it within 24 to 48 hours because if you don't do it, you're gone because there's some other person really, whoever is good at communicating and following up will always get the job first. That's kind of my rule of thumb is be very proactive about communication. So there's one more question I had, and I think it's from Susan is, how do you pitch for a new executive role that you want, but does not yet exist at your company? What a fantastic question. How many of you want to have an answer for that question? Give me a thumbs up or say, yes, we need an answer for it. Ankita, do you have any insights? I can share some, but do you have any insights?
So you are asking that like a job which you don't have, but you want to create a job? I'm sorry,
Yes.
I didn't.
So let's say there is in the company, there are, you want to pitch for a new executive role that you want, but does not yet exist at your company. That role does not exist, but you still want to pitch yourself as an executive. How do you go about it? Do you have any guidance on that?
Um, Definitely. What I would say is if you see a gap, like in your company or at that level, and you are already trying to fill that gap or trying to solve that, problem, and already working at that level, you can always have put those points together. I don't know what is the right way to say it, but you can always pitch yourself and give examples of why you think that position should be there, and and these are the gaps, and that's how you can fill it, and that's how it will be fruitful. And you can also give like various examples of other companies where that type of role has eventually evolved and helped the company perform better, or that group perform better.
Well said, Ankita. Is like, first, I would say always perform to the role so that everyone notices it. But if you see that there is I always say, create the job for your dream. Like, you get to create it. So you should be part of the strategy conversation. Be in the strategy conversation for what the company is forming and shaping. That means you need to be invited to the table, or you bring your own chair to the table, and really participated, because when the strategies are built, the organizational designs gets built, and you can easily say that role is something I want to take in. And then you start networking, start to position yourself for that role, and then you will get the dream role that you're looking for. So Susan, hopefully that was good. We can always talk more during our roundtable session. But again, Ankita, fantastic work. Thank you so much for enlightening us, for crushing our interview, and really excited to have you here. Appreciate it. So with that,
Thank you,
Nancy,
Jen.
I'm going to hand over the baton to you.
Thank you. Thank you. I love that. I'm talking to myself here in the office. I'm like talking to the chat. Yes, Susan, Rachel, Cindy. Oh my God. It has been my experience that when follow-up is done, it is good to recall in that note with specificity something that happened in that conversation that highlighted your strengths, your skills. And I think it was Cindy talking about, making sure that that actually gets to the right, to the interviewer and not the recruiter. People skills, Rachel. Oh my God, the number one skill is adaptability, a monster, and building our emotional quotient skills with communication and empathy. Great conversation. Thank you all, and I'm just loving the chat, and I love anything that is called Befriend the Dragon. I mean, how cool is that, right?